This is Heidi Wall-Giesbrecht of Encouragement Along the Journey.
Alrighty, we are live. So, yay! It's always a success when you hit the go live and it actually goes live. I love it. I think I may have told you, Chantel,
We like that.
there was one time where right as I was getting ready to go live, this little message popped up from Substack saying, "Hey, we're testing out this new bandwidth or whatever, something about faster speeds. Would you like to be one of the testers?" Well, it was like right in front of my face on the screen. And so of course you have to do something with
Yeah.
it. And so I went, "Sure, whatever." Except, well, I had nothing but issues. It took us 10 minutes to get online. And I'm like, "Okay, that is the last time I ever accept a change right before I go online." So, yeah.
Yeah. You are like Substack, I cannot be your live guinea pig, like, and not do that.
No. Well, I
Yes.
see we've got a bunch of people joining. Thank you everyone for being here. It's so great to be together. I think we'll start with some intros and people will join us as we go. So, I know I'm going to invite Margaret to introduce herself first. It's so lovely to have you here. So, go for it.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Heidi. Margaret Williams, I am the publisher of The Empowered Leader. I help women who have been marginalized elevate their voices, stop surviving power systems, and start leading with freedom, influence, and authority. Thank you so much.
Love it. Awesome. Chantel,
Wow.
go for it.
I'm Chantel Levon, and I have a Substack called Always Be Reading, where I help people live examined lives through literature and through conversation. And I'm happy to be here, even in my frozen state.
That's awesome. Well, I am Heidi Wall-Giesbrecht, and I write Encouragement Along the Journey. I also have another one that is very sporadic called Reflections on the Sacred and the Ordinary, which is a little bit more, I mean, I would say they're both personal. That one is a little more just kind of processing my own thinking and some of the ways in which I'm changing over time. And yeah, I am absolutely loving the conversations here on Substack. I'm finding that I know I've said this before, so people who have heard me before will know that I describe my Substack as an art gallery exhibition of the thoughts in my head because it really is very random, although apparently ChatGPT tells me it's not as random as I think. So, and yeah, we are excited to be here today talking about the artist's way. Chantel started this whole thing by posting a little post about, "Hey, I'm doing the artist way. Who wants to join me?" And I very bravely posted, "I just pulled out my book." And next thing I know, here I am. So, and then Margaret, you graciously joined our last one and you were so lovely in the comments and decided to pick up your artist's way as well. And so the goal has been that each of us work through it at our own pace and we meet periodically just to chat about our learnings and our process. So, yeah, where are you guys at with the artist's way?
I can start. All right. I I read the preface today. Okay. And I was truly inspired by it. And I'm looking forward to this 12-week journey.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that's awesome. That's awesome. I don't know if you can still hear me. I was thinking,
Yeah.
Heidi, of leaving and trying to come back in. I think you have to send me a new invitation,
I do. We can definitely try that. Go for it. We'll take a
and
quick
let's
little
try that.
pause here.
Yep,
Yeah.
I can continue. Okay.
All right. All right. And I will invite Chantel back. There she is. All right. Perfect. So she should be joining us momentarily. Maybe I'll take a few moments just to chat about where I'm at. So I'm very, very excited because this is my third time starting the artist's way. I think the first time, Margaret, I got as far as the preface and thought, "Oh, this is really cool," and then didn't do any more. And it probably was a timing thing because it was when I was in university. And so the time just felt like a lot. Uh, the second time I attempted it, I think was when my kids were really small. And so hello, you're back. So the second time I attempted it, my kids were really small, and so time again was a bit of a challenge, but I made it to page 86, I discovered. And this is the week, people, that I made it to page 90.
Yay!
All right.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, so I
Wonderful.
am like further than I have been ever before, which was really good. And I think for me, the key this time, and I touched on it last time, was that I have had to have a little bit more grace and patience with myself and allow myself to do it in the way that works for me, not necessarily in the structure that she proposes. And
Yeah.
so when there is something that is working well, I lean into it. And when it's
Hmm.
not working well, I try to sit with why it's not working well, and I try to adapt it in a way that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good. Is this better, guys? Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yes,
That's
it's
the main
better.
thing. I'm on my phone. So I'm like, we problem solve, right? We're problem solvers.
Excellent.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So I am on week 4. And I've been in week 4 for 2 weeks. And Heidi, I just wanted to thank you because what you said, which you just repeated, but you said it the first time we spoke, and then I heard it again of the same kind of spirit of that in our first conversation. And what that did for me is it gave me a permission because I am a rule follower when it comes to like, I'm doing an assignment. And I attended my cousin's funeral. It's my young cousin, which was unexpected and tragic, but also beautiful in the family gathering, and just, that kind of mix of things. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to forge ahead. I'm going to set it down. So I like set up week 4. I did the reading. It's about anger, like focuses a lot on like the anger. And I just set it down and I was like, I'm going to come back to it. I'm allowing myself to come back to it when I need to. And I didn't give myself a date. I didn't say I'm going to come. I didn't give myself a date, which feels very odd. But I'm so glad I did that. And I wanted to just share like a couple of things that happened to me in this period where wasn't doing the academic work of it, like the reading and the studying and follow and doing the prompts. I
Yeah.
think for me, what happened is that all of kind of the stuff leading up to that was able to simmer in a different way. So, in particular, one of the things I think I shared the last time we were together, I was like, my affirmations, I didn't write them. So I wasn't I mean, I did write it, but I wasn't engaging it. So it didn't feel like it had a real purpose for me. But I've been thinking about it. It's been in my headspace. But what came out for me wasn't a list of affirmations, again, giving yourself permission to make this your own. What came out of me this morning that I was wrestling with in my mind, and then finally I had some time this morning on paper, was a vision statement. And that vision statement is so affirming. I printed it out. Like it's on my mirror. It's another copy is right by my bed. I have one at my desk. And I think like there's something that I'm learning about the pacing that I need through this process. And so I just wanted to like, if anyone is doing it to, tap on that and also to thank you because I think I needed that permission
Yeah.
that I didn't know I needed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because that makes me think of something that I discovered a couple of years ago. I ordered this journal, and gosh, I don't even, somewhere I have it. So if anyone's like, what was it? Private message me later and I'll look up the name of it. But it was something to do with, it was like a burnout journal, but she's got like a bunch of
Oh,
different
yeah.
journals. And they're one of the things that she did in the process was it was like a weekly walkthrough. And at the beginning of the week, she had us set some intentions, not goals, just intentions. And then we didn't touch them for the rest of the week. And I was like, this is really weird. But what I discovered was just taking time to think of an intention and set the intention and then move through my week. And at the end of the week, she would have this moment where you just made some observations about your week. And what I found was often without having a specific plan in place, I had made steps towards my intentions. And I found that so fascinating because it goes against
Wow.
all of the information that we get about SMART goals and all that kind of stuff,
Yes.
right? Which all of us
Right.
rule followers are like,
Yes.
okay, we're going to do
Yes.
it. And so I
It's
was like,
measurable. It's time bound.
right, but it wasn't. And I was like, I think there is something about just having thoughts in your mind and being aware of them that actually allows you to integrate them in a different way and move towards them in a really helpful
Yeah.
way. And I feel like that's what you were describing, Chantel, is that
Yes.
there were like these awakenings that were happening and you didn't have to force them, you didn't have to make them happen, but you found yourself moving towards them. And I I love that. I think that's the whole I don't know, I feel like with our way of learning and even school and teaching, it's very structured and you do this and you learn this at
Yeah.
this time. And with my kids, we ended up being unschoolers, which was
Yep.
a total we did not intend to be. I thought those people were really weird, and yet here I was, one of them. But what I noticed was just the way that learning happens so organically when you just allow yourself to live life. And
Yeah.
so I feel like you're describing that
Yeah.
in your journey with the artist
Yeah.
way. So that's just beautiful.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just want to say that this book, Julia Cameron, she already instituted a lot of the things that we believe in today, okay? Like just try, okay?
Mhm.
And baby step, I got baby step from that movie with
Mhm.
I can't that
Is it Dustin
comedy.
Hoffman? Yes.
No, it was Bill Murray. Bill Murray.
Right. Baby steps to the elevator. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He was compulsive. He had a compulsive disorder, and he had to put napkins or whatever on the doorknobs and everything.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I say, that's how he got through it. Baby steps.
Baby steps. Baby
Yeah.
steps.
And that's exactly what I do. Okay. And another one that I institute
What
is the
about Bob? Yes. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah. What about? Yeah. It's the serenity prayer. Okay.
Ah.
And okay, because that's what they instituted in NA. All of these principles are based on that addiction principles. Okay. And it just makes things so simple. And so when you what you're talking about, you're referencing the flow state. That's something we addressed on another live. Okay. Each and every one of us state is different. Okay. We have 3 ways in which we learn. We learn visually, okay, and auditory, and tactile, where you learn is So what you were describing earlier in our conversation, because your creativity, you are visual learner, and I am a visual learner too. So everything that you were talking about, I can picture it in my mind. Okay, so that's your gift and the way you see it. And so from there, see, I'm the type of person, I like strategy. So I can take that concept and I can say, okay, well, we can break it down. We can do this, 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 this,
Right.
this. Okay. And then Chantel, she came in and she added her piece to it. And then we end up with a product, a mock-up, because I worked with the government. So we end up with a mock-up because we want to do that before we actually put it out there and say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. First, we got to find out if it's a viable source, okay? Then we have to figure out what is the supply, what is the demand for this? Like you were talking about that umbrella, okay? That could very well have been your idea, and you could have been sitting up on the beach somewhere just collecting the royalties
Yeah.
for all the ideas that you were talking to us about. Just one of those ideas. could
Yep.
land you a billionaire.
Be
Yeah.
lovely. I'd love that. So
Yeah.
for context, everyone, we were having a really fun chat in the pre little check-in where we had all sorts of wonderful ideas that literally could make us millions if we got them off the ground. So, and by the
Yeah.
way, just a little aside to the What About Bob movie, what struck me when you were talking about the baby steps was the flip side of that. As a therapist, of course, watching the psychologist or psychiatrist slowly go crazy, it strikes me that he was so rigid and rules based
Uh-huh.
that it actually drove him to insanity.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
maybe
Uh-huh.
maybe a little thought there.
Yeah. I wonder also, one of the things that I was thinking about, when one of the things that I say to my kids, and it was said, to me, it's lived in our family, so it didn't originate for me, but I passed it down. Is don't give your brain away to anyone, not even to me. And I think it's harder to live that out because when we encounter experts, right? Or when we encounter people who have achieved a quality of life or a goal that we want to achieve, and it's very impressive, and then they say like, "Here's the way, here's the steps." I think that it's especially for people who, I mean, maybe for anybody, but for people who are driven or who uh, are really motivated to achieve whatever it is they achieve. I think that there's this balance of that you have to have of accepting the expert, reading the thing, getting the plan, mining for the advice and wisdom from the friend or the person that that's done the remarkable thing, and onboarding those things into your world instead of like me or you onboarding ourselves into this structure. And I think also about one of the things that's making me think about that. So I work for Highlights Magazine, which is a kids magazine, and we had a retreat, and they were asking like a strategic brainstorming. We want to grow, we want to stretch, we want to innovate. And we had an assignment that we had to bring like a company that innovated itself, right? And how they did that. And so everyone in the room chose companies that were in publishing, and I came in and I had Marvel Universe, and I was like, "Oh man, I did this wrong." But I was really fascinated because Marvel actually had a reawakening, and it became the Marvel that I know, but it was bankrupt like before that, and it was like counted out, and then it was revitalized. And what fascinated me was the what number one thing that they attribute that their success to was in HR and how they hired. It had nothing to do with all the things I thought they would say. It was in the hiring. And they said that the way that they used to hire was they would onboard to Marvel. And so it's like, here, you're working for Marvel. Great. We're going to tell you all about us, and here's what we want, and here's what we do, and all of this. And they flipped that model. And so they said, no, we don't want people coming to our ship. We want to go into people. We want to onboard into people. And that, they said, changed how people showed up, what people questioned, where people thought they had agency, and it changed their whole culture. And it also changed who they looked for. And actually, their most successful, or one of their most successful movies within the Marvel universe. My husband's a big Marvel guy, so if he's listening, I'm like, gotta get it right, because he's like, you have been taught this. It's actually the one of the Thors, but it was the Thor where Thor was more comical. There was a more comical. And that's because they hired a comedian who was a director, and he was like, but I've never directed. They were like, oh, we know how to do big box, movies. But what we don't have is a different perspective. And that's what you have. And so I think like, what this permission is also a reminder and disrupting even the pattern of like what I warn my kids, don't give your brain away, but it's like I need to onboard myself into systems or myself into it. And I think that will help with the rigidity, because when it's rigid, we don't stick with it. It doesn't work. And then we can have negative thoughts like, I'm a failure. Here I go again, whatever those things are. And it's not, required. So
Well,
Got it.
I tagged you both in a post this week because I had a really weird moment this week, which actually took me back to chapter 1 of the book. And what happened was I got some unexpected news to do with my work that is just it kind of it was really interesting because I've been feeling this internal shift about, yeah, I think I'm heading in a different direction. Not that I'm not going to be doing the counseling work that I do. I love it, but just that I really want to lean more into doing the writing. And I've written a lot of this on my Substack as well, the whole imposter syndrome piece. And it took me I remember, early on being in a conversation where the question was, how long have you been a writer? And I went, haha, 2 weeks, because I had literally started calling myself a writer 2 weeks before that. And then everyone else came into the conversation, oh, 30 years, 10 years. And I'm like,
Right.
here's me, 2 weeks. That's what I got,
Right.
people. And, but so that, that voice comes up really quickly. And so I had been feeling this internal shift. And so the news that I got is requiring a little bit of rejigging my location of my office and things like that. And when I got the email in the morning, I actually felt okay about it. I was like, I'm at
Mhm.
peace. This is
Yeah.
good. Like, it's interesting because, my husband and I had just been talking about maybe I need to like actually earn a little bit less money and take some time away from my paid work so that I can really delve into the writing. And I mean, obviously, all of us hope at some point to be able to earn a little bit. And I do because of choices we made early for our kids. I don't have the option to retire early. I'm working
Yeah.
for at least another 9 years.
Same here.
So yeah, and we joke we're on the Freedom
Yeah.
80 plan. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but so I I was like, yeah, everything is good. And through the day I was good. And I messaged one of my really close friends and I said, hey, here's what's going on. And she's like, how are you feeling? I'm like, I'm good. And then that evening, as I'm like doing my evening pages and I'm getting ready to settle and I put on my sleep mask and whatever, my brain goes absolutely nuts. And it's like, who do you think you are, anyways? You have nothing of value to say. What do people want to hear from you, anyways? Like, you think you're a writer? Good luck. And just
Mhm.
like all these ugly things started coming out. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I get to practice what I preach here and just do some. And so all of a sudden, this thought came in, wait a minute, there was that thing about affirmations in the first
Yeah.
chapter. And so I flipped back over to the first chapter and I read through the affirmations. And the first time through, I had gone through and I had pulled out the ones that felt most relevant. And so this time I did the same thing. I just
Yeah.
on my pages, I started writing out the ones that felt most relevant. And it was like enough to like calm things down so that I could actually go to bed and wake
Yeah.
up the next morning and be like, okay, it's okay. And then I was like, you know what? I need to share this because I am 100% sure that I'm not the only one who experiences
Yeah.
this. And it was
Yeah.
Yeah.
just, yeah, it was just this like, wow, within a 24-hour period to go from like confidence, I'm good, I've got this, I've got a sense of peace, everything is wonderful, to, I'm a fraud, I can't do it. Yeah, it was really fascinating. So that was like one of my, and of course, then the brain takes you to that place of you're not doing this right. Like, how much have you actually read? How many days did you actually do your pages?
Right.
And the end result, when I went back and counted it, was I did 5 days where I wrote my pages, which I'm actually good with. I don't have to do all 7. And yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That's
I,
really great.
I just want to mention that the main thing out of this book, when Julia Cameron talked to people time and time again about getting feedback from people, they
mm,
said that the most important part was the pages because
mm-hmm,
that transformed their lives. And so it what it does, it increases your productivity, okay, which enables you to not only write you know, drafts or whatever, but you can also poetry, songs, plays, musicals. It ignites your creativity overall. So I did want to mention that. So
yeah,
there is some correlation between the spirituality aspect and creativity.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I I'm a children's ministry director, and on Sunday, this past Sunday, I've been also trying to read more poetry, and I really have been just taking poetry with me because I don't have a habit and a place for it in my life, but I want to read more poetry. So I started this little thing where when I'm driving in the car, when my husband's driving, and I'll read a poem, I'll bless a poem with, with my family, and they indulge their mother. So they are like, it's a little flower childish. So here's our mom reading Mary Oliver poetry, and they go along for the ride. And so for this Sunday, it was a beautiful day outside. It was just like the perfect weather. And I was like, there is no way we're going to be inside. So I brought the kids out and I was like, come on, kids, grab paint. We don't know if the paint's good. Where are the brushes? Here's a toothbrush. Here's a little stick. Like, here's some paper. My kids are also used to, like, Miss Chantel, this is typical. So we like straggle outside, and I was like, I put on some like music, this group called Under or Over the Rhine, Rhine. I just listened to it, check it out. And I just put that on, and I said, I'm going to read a poem over you. Lay down. Look up at the, the sun. Just relax. And I'm going to read this poem. And they did. And then, but the poem was very long. So they were like, we didn't know it was going to be this long, like Miss Chantel. And I was like, and it's all about like seeing God in everything, and expanding our mind about what we think God is. He's not just in church buildings. He's not just this. He's in the wind, and, it's everything. And then I was like, okay, now paint and respond. And I brought my journal because my response was going to be my morning pages that I hadn't done yet. But my response was going to be out of how I naturally respond, which is writing. And the kids were like, no, what are you doing? You have to paint too. And I was like, no, I'm not going to paint. I'm going to write. They were like, no, you have to paint. And so I was like, okay. I was like, but I don't have any paper. They were like, well, just paint in your journal. There's paper. And I was like, in my journal? They were like, yeah, Miss Chantel, just paint. You have to paint. We're painting. And so I was like, okay. And you guys, I painted, let me see, this. I painted this, which you can't really tell it's here,
beautiful.
but it has like words in the brown of the poem.
Yeah.
And it was so wonderfully different. And then after that, do you know what I did? I went to the store and I got me paints, and I took the time and I got me paints. I picked out colors. I didn't even get like the pack. And I got me some brushes, and I have been adding like painting and responding, and it's opened up something so different to me. And so my morning pages that I now call my whenever pages.
Yes.
My whenever pages have taken on a new light, and I love the push, the kids who were like, no, you're gonna do this. And what it did is I broke something, because I had I didn't even know I had this rule, like this rigidness even within my own journal that's completely mine. And it's allowing me to have a whole different relationship. And
so
I didn't want to paint because I'm not good at art visually, and it's going to be ugly. And I didn't want to make my journal ugly. And so that was my hesitancy. And to me, be like, oh, this is beautiful. This is meaningful. Like, this isn't true. And it's mine. And what other aspects of myself am I saying isn't worthy, isn't right, or I can't do it? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that, honestly, that is gorgeous. Your painting. Wow. It's funny. I find sometimes, so this was one of those weeks where I love my clients. I learn so much from my clients. I mean, I know that they're paying me to come see me, but they often bring me this beautiful like wisdom and ideas. And so one of my clients this week shared this beautiful idea that I was like, oh, I think I want to try this sometime. And she had actually heard it from an artist friend. And she said it's for those times when you need to write things down that don't necessarily feel good. And you maybe don't even ever want to go back and read them again, but you know that you need to write them out. And so what she said is she's like, tell all your clients to do this. And I'm like, all right, I got it. She says, like, take your page and write on it until it's full, and then turn it, and then write over your writing and keep writing. and then turn it and write over and keep writing,
Oh
and
my
turn it and
gosh.
write over and keep writing, and then none of the words are going to be legible. And she says, now haul out your paints and paint a picture over top of the writing. Is that not
Oh my
beautiful?
god.
Right? And I was like, wow, that is
I love the oh my gosh, please tell her thank you for sharing that and sharing it with all of us. I get it instantly, the power of it. I don't have to be convinced. You know, when you hear something that's like, yeah, there is such transformative symbolism in even the turning, the perspective, and the writing over, the authorship of over, and then the painting over, the beauty and the color, like everything that can pour into that, that even that single color pen that you're using to do it can't do. I love that.
isn't that amazing? And I was
That
It
like,
is
is.
wow.
amazing.
It
Yeah, that
is.
feels like one of those transformative things
It
that
really does.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
Yes.
really does. Wow. That's a good one. Everyone do that. Tell us
Yes,
how it went. Like that's
totally.
a
Yeah.
good one. Good
And
one.
then they can share their pictures with us.
Yeah.
Right.
What?
Your
We could do
pages.
like an art gallery of it. Fun.
Good. Does
Yeah,
A
it have a
collage.
name? I feel like it should have a name.
it should.
We can make a collage out of it. We get enough.
Oh, oh, that'd be amazing.
It
Yes.
would be. Yeah, we'll do that. I'm gonna do
Yeah,
that. I'm gonna do
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, I have a question. Has there been a space or a place where there's been where you recognized resistance or
Mm.
anxiety or I don't want to kind of look at that or do that. Have you discovered any of those things?
100%. I made some notes for myself last night, kind of going back through my
Yeah.
pages, and it's hilarious. Maybe I'll just very quickly read through some of them. So the whole pages thing, as you know from last
Yeah.
time, that was a challenge for me, and so definitely resistance around the everyday piece. I found that part of me was actually resentful of the pages because I
Mhm.
felt like they were taking me away from the time that I really wanted to be doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And in being so like, I really want to do my pages, I often like, I just haven't been doing as much writing, which to me, I was like, that's interesting. So
Hmm.
I did notice that when I do morning pages, those tend to be on days when I have more space. And I don't have a lot of days in my life where I have a lot of space because I
Mhm.
work full time. I have a household of 7 people and 8 animals. So there's a lot going on. What I did find is that evening pages were helpful because they helped me ground and
Yeah.
kind of take down the buzz of urgency.
Mhm.
So there was like this love-hate thing going on with that.
Mhm.
Definitely, I realized that I have a bit of a block around time and schedule. And there were kind of two different pieces that struck me. One was my life is really busy. And
Yeah.
so just the need to find very intentional spaces to create yeah, time and space to just allow the
Mhm.
writing to come because I have no shortage of ideas. The pieces
Mhm.
of paper are building. I actually decided this week I need to come up with some sort of filing system. I already have one on my computer, but I also need to do something with all my little scraps of paper. And so I'm actually coming up on 2 weeks off starting like tomorrow. And so I am hoping that in these 2 weeks, one of the things that I plan to do is just to take some time to reflect very intentionally on what do I need to shift. And the other thing that kind of struck me was the delightful and the good can actually cause stuckness. Because
Mhm.
when I thought about my life is filled with a lot of good things and there's a lot of delightful things and they aren't things that I really want to give up. And yet, if I fill my life completely with all those good things, it leaves very little time for reflection, for writing, for some of that space that you need for creativity. And
Mhm.
so that was kind of where some of the blocks for me kind of came
Wow.
into play.
Wow.
So did you get all of that from morning pages and the artist way, or in general?
A combination for sure. Like some of it definitely came out of the morning pages where I was reflecting on things and then just kind of sitting with the frustration of the morning pages, I think led to some of the awareness around this because it was like, okay, how come is the thing that is supposed to be helping frustrating me? What is that about? Because I do think the morning pages are a good thing. So if I'm, thinking they're a good thing, even if they're not in the morning, if they're every time, anytime pages, why are they frustrating me? What is that bringing up in me? Yeah.
Wow. That's really good. That's really good. That's really good.
Did it bring up
I
anything for you? Yeah.
Yeah, for me this week, I think that I see how at this point, I think with the artist way, what I've been trying to explain it to people, which is really hard to do. It's really hard to do it. I feel like I run into two different types of conversations. Those people who done it or have started and they're like, "No, I get it." You know what I'm saying? And then people who have no idea what it is. And then when I explain it, they're just looking at me like, "That's good, Chantel." Like, like they don't it's hard to explain, and I think like as I move through, it's hard to explain in a quick moment. I think like having a full or maybe conversation, but I think it'll be something that people see in evidence versus a tell, And that's definitely happening within like my marriage. So I think what's really interesting now are like the ways in which my time is needing to look a little differently. And I can relate to you, Heidi, because I'm homeschooling. I have a full job. I have an also very demanding little Pomeranian. It's like he's very demanding. But it's the life. I'm also the main caregiver of my mom, who's 88 and fabulous, but still, needs support. And there's a lot going on. And one of the things that is part true, but also part crutch is time. And I don't have time. I'm exhausted. I can't make time. And when I investigated that a little bit, that the artist way has allowed me to do. It's like this catalyst that says, "Oh, we can look at that." That's what it is for me.
Yeah.
And to get underneath the things that I've been saying to myself is I haven't chosen to make the time. And my kind of biggest thing, and I don't know what week she talked about it, maybe it was week 3 or 2, but it was like paying attention. And it was one of those things that I read about. I got it. I took the notes. But then it's the space of really sitting with that. And I realized that I have fallen away from the habit in so many areas, concrete and abstract, of tending to myself. I tend to everyone else. And I am a very good cheerleader for people's hopes, dreams. I am quick to jump in, push up my sleeves, be 10 toes down. I am situated in a we mentality. So, and I realized that the tending to myself from getting my nails done, I mean, like from very concrete little things like that, like, so, you know, to tending to not just my spiritual relationship, which is a big part in my life, but even in that there was more tending outward to God than even like, okay, let's tend, like it's hard to explain like that even like tending in the sense of vulnerability, of like really being vulnerable and open about my where I am, how I feel, what I want, why do I want it? I realized that, oh, I've done a lot of negotiation that wasn't even asked of me, where I, even with God, like to say, okay, well, I don't have to pursue that. I'm okay with not having that. I don't have to do that. And I have I'm a happy person, and I have a very upbeat personality, and that's part of who I am, and that is authentic.
Yeah.
But what's also authentic that hasn't been getting tended to is like my sadness, my longing, the
Yeah.
things that I set down, the things I set down. Nobody asked me to do it. you know? And I think that when I arrived at chapter 4, and it talked about anger, the first thing I did was like, oh, well, I really don't, this doesn't apply to me because I don't have anything I'm angry about.
Uh-huh.
I'm not angry about anything.
You
So
sure?
I was like, I'm going to skip over it. And I'm like, maybe I am. I'm in this place, you guys. I honestly am sitting right at maybe I am angry. I don't even know if I am. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I need to
Mhm,
sit. I know
mhm,
I need to
mhm.
sit. My first instinct was, no, I'm not angry. I'm good.
Yeah.
But now
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know. Or if I was, I dealt with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And so what this is, it's like, I know, like, I don't need to rush it. Let me sit in it. And I also, I have to relearn how to tend. So even for like what I need from like my night routine or whatever, like just the tending, what I need, because I am a sensory person and I live in a household with people who are not. And so things out of place doesn't allow me to relax. And I'm like, no, I actually need things to be in place. You know, that's a need that my nervous system requires, actually.
Well, and you know what? It's so fascinating, Chantel, because when you talk about the anger, I think, man, like anger is one of those emotions that I think sometimes we misunderstand. I think sometimes, and I mean, I'm brushing some pretty broad strokes here, but I I think anger often people see anger as a negative thing or as a really volatile thing because that's often how we see anger portrayed. And
Yeah.
the reality is that anger is actually a very natural internal response to things that feel unfair or unjust or unexpected, or even when something didn't turn out quite the way that we thought it would. The experience of anger is very natural. And I think a lot of times people see anger just as like angry responses, which
Yeah.
actually is not anger, that's behavior. The emotion of anger is our internal response to something. And so
Uh-huh.
once we see that it's not actually something we need to be scared of. It is just something that is communicating with us and that is giving us information about how we are responding to something. It changes it because then we can write about it. We
Right.
can process it. We can welcome it in a sense because it's actually communicating lots of different things to us, what
Mhm.
matters to us, where there's a shift. Sometimes even like anger can even come with good things
Yeah.
because any change inevitably brings about a loss of another sort. I remember my friend saying when my kids were young, and I'd be like so confused why even like we're going to Disneyland. Why are you all upset? And she's like, Heidi, like, first of all, my kids are autistic, so change is hard for them, but change
Right.
is change, even good change. And I was like, what? But then I
Yeah.
sat with that and it was like, yeah, you're right. So even good change could bring about some feelings of anger or feelings of, loss and grief.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting that you're like, yeah,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
realizing I haven't been connecting to that part of me. Yeah,
Mhm.
such wisdom.
I'm so glad that thank you for sharing that. And it's popping. I think how you shared it for me in this moment, and it might be helpful for others. I wasn't able to extrapolate maybe what she's trying to give in this. And it wasn't because I was resistant to it. It was because I just maybe didn't know how to access it. I'm a 0 to 20 T woman. So I just sit I'm a thinker. And I think I may have told you this. When I need to cry, I'll say, I think I'm gonna cry. Like I think tears are coming. Like, you know? And I'm trying to engage more with those emotions first. And I think a question that when you were speaking, a question I'm going to write down to sit with, because it makes it's how does anger, what does it look like for me?
Yeah.
And I like that you separated, well, there's the emotion and then there's the behavior,
Yeah.
which I wasn't thinking about as like separate,
Yeah.
because you're right. When I think of anger and I have a vision of an image of anger, it is like out of control, yelling. It's it's volatile. I think you use that word.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not me. I don't see myself in that way. And so maybe so I was dismissing, like it was dismissive. And so I think that your way of explaining it is saying, Chantel, you need to search, what is it like for you when you feel it, and how do you behave? Like, what are you doing? What's your behavior? And those are two things that I have, thank you, to kind of sit with and investigate. That was hard for me. I think that's what she was getting at, but
Yeah.
I wasn't
Couldn't grasp
get
it.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I find with emotions in general, I think we assign value to them, like they're a
Yeah.
good emotion or a bad emotion, or I don't want to feel that way. And I often will use like the visual of like the dashboard on your car. And it has all sorts of different lights that light up for different things. And, if my gas light goes on and I go check my tire pressure, I'm eventually going to run into problems.
Right.
And likewise, if my tire pressure light goes on and I ignore it, I'm also going to run into problems.
Right.
And so it's this idea that like when a light pops up, it's there for a reason. And if we're just like, oh, what's that light? I haven't seen that one before, and we're curious about it, it actually helps us figure out what's going on underneath the hood. And I think emotions are very much the same way. That when they pop up, they're there for a reason. They're trying to
Correct.
communicate something to us. They're not good, they're not bad. We don't get mad. Well, we might get mad at the gas light going on because,
Mm-hmm.
it's expensive to fill up our car, but we don't get mad at the vehicle for telling us that the
Right.
gas is. And so just, I find that visual can be really helpful for emotions. Just
Yeah.
they're all welcome. They are just communicating something. And as you were talking, it struck me two words, kind of actually more than two words came to mind, but two specific words came to mind. And it was invitation, not structure. Because I think the
Mm.
first two times that I went through the artist's way, I think I approached it as a structure. Whereas I
Mm.
feel like this time I'm approaching it as an invitation. And I think that that's probably more congruent with her approach and her desire. I think just
Yeah.
because she is very educational in how she writes, my brain automatically translated into structure. I knew how to do that. I knew how to
Yeah.
put it into structure. And I'm finding there's a grace that comes with seeing the invitation rather than the
Yeah.
structure.
Structure. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That also helps me because part of week 4, that reading, which is the reading fast for a week, just like, yeah, that's really.
Yeah. I struggled with that one because I'm like, and I know she specifically talks to it, but I was like, I'm not doing it.
You know what? I was like, Heidi, I said, I'm not going to do that. I don't think that that is going to, I understand it, the concept, but I'm like,
Yeah.
it doesn't fit in my world any way at all. Like I was trying to think, how could I sanitize it? I'm like, I read for work, I read for this, like, it's just, I read for my Substack, or I read for pleasure. Reading also is medicinal for me, and it
Yeah.
calms me down. Reading is the thing that ensures I spend some time with myself,
Yeah.
because I'm often reading physical books
Yeah.
and I can't multitask when I'm reading a book. And usually in most of the other moments in my life, and I'm sure you can understand, I'm multitasking, or I'm have an expectation of it where I can
Yeah.
even if I say, hey kids, I'm doing, like, I give all the things, like, I'm doing this, they're still, on ramps. But
Yes.
reading is a place that just pulls me in, and it's just me and that thing. And I need that.
Yeah.
Uh, like that's so I'm giving
I
myself permission to say no to that one.
Well, I didn't write down the exact quote, but there was a line in that section where it felt like it gave some permission, and I don't remember exactly what it was
Yeah.
that struck me, but one of the things I thought was, "Well, I this does not resonate with me, and it doesn't work for me because, like you, I mean, for my work, as I'm preparing for sessions, I do need to be doing some reading. I do,
Yeah.
right? I can't just walk away from it completely. But what I did take from it was maybe I could be a little more intentional in some of the ways that I spend my time. So I have found myself doing a lot less of turning on the TV and watching House Hunters.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot less of like I've been really I love going through all the different things on Substack, but I mean, I could spend hours and hours and hours a day reading on
Yeah.
Substack. And so I've tried to be a bit more intentional. So when I get up, instead of like trying to dismiss every notification, and I don't dismiss the notification until I've at least looked at it or dealt with it,
Right.
right? So,
Right.
I can wake up in the morning and there's like 50 notifications.
Yeah.
And so, being intentional about which ones I address. So I'll deal with my email because I have to look at my work email. I will pop into Facebook really quickly just to see if any of my friends have messaged me. And then when it comes to Substack, I head over to my notifications and I check my own notifications. I respond to anyone who's like commented
Yeah.
on something. And then I shut it down and I intentionally take the time to do my pages, to do some reading, to maybe do a bit of writing
Yeah.
before I, in the evening at the end of the day, kind of go back to looking at what other people have written and
Right.
read through some of it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've tried to just be a little more intentional so that that isn't taking up all my time, and then I have nothing left for some of the just sitting with things and
Yeah.
creativity. So that was kind of my way of adapting that one to feel
Yeah.
like I could live with it.
I was
So,
I was thinking of too, like for me, I was thinking, well, maybe you can with I watch sometimes random YouTube. Like I like cults. I really am interested in cults. I
mm.
and documentaries.
Have
Documentaries.
you watched Shiny Happy People?
I have watched that, and I think there's a second one that's out or a follow-up that I think someone told me about, and I haven't watched that one. But yeah, so like that type of thing right there, like Shiny Happy People. Because I also used to watch. My kids were little with the Duggars, and I used to watch. I actually got her little thing, Tea with Mrs. Duggar. So when this came out, I was like, oh, there was like this connection almost in a very weird way. But I'm like, okay, for a week, less of those things. And what I want to challenge myself because I realize, oh, I keep constant noise going around me sometimes, like
Yep.
podcasts, because they're interesting. Or,
Right.
there's so much content and there's so much like interesting and useful content. But I was like, my world is very loud. So I think what I'm going to do is intentionally quiet my world by
Yeah.
turning off some of the noise and just hearing more my voice,
Mm. Yeah.
more than that. So I think that's how I will approach the spirit maybe of what this invitation is. The
Yeah.
invitation.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And I'm Sunset Skies, I'm looking at your note there and Millionaire Muse's song Morning Magic. I've just written it down because I'm gonna go listen to it afterwards. But
Yeah.
I just realized we haven't really said much in terms of the live chat going on, but thank you. There's been such great conversation in there and Poetic Cinema Studio also has added just a lot of
Yes.
thoughts.
Hello,
So
Poetic Cinema Studio.
yeah.
I'm glad you're
So
here. Great. He has great
yeah.
stuff, great content.
Yep.
Uh, appreciate everyone who has joined and hung out today. And really, this time I say over and over again, I'm 100% convinced now that if this is something that you want to do it in community. Like,
Yeah.
fine. It is just, I would not be having the experience that I'm having without my
Mm.
time, in space with you.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm truly grateful. Even today, like I have things to sit and talk about and think about, and that's really, I'm so
Yeah.
encouraged. So
Well,
encouraged.
it definitely, I agree, like being able to do this and knowing that you're doing it, even though like we're not doing it at the same pace, we're
No,
allowing that grace and the conversations aren't
yeah,
scripted. We're not even, I mean, today we
no,
were talking about the same chapter, but that doesn't always happen.
yeah,
And there's something nice about, well, I've really appreciated just the flexibility around that. Like
yeah,
being able to just, yeah, show up with what we need to show up with. And
yeah.
yeah, this has been great. So I
It
think,
has, and I'm glad that we, even in our talk about it, because I had started a little bit earlier than
yeah,
you, but I'm so happy that neither one of us came with the spirit of trying to manufacture a moment.
yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
then I thought like, oh, we need to, be in the same week, and then it would not have, even if we wanted it to be for us, it would not have been for us because we
Right.
would have been manufacturing
Yeah,
something. And I just appreciate, no, I'm on a road and I have a fellow traveler.
yeah,
And the comfort of knowing, even when we don't speak, like I have there's a fellow traveler, a sojourner, and that's so helpful. And
yeah,
also, sometimes we stop along this road and we share notes and we share things and we encourage and we think together and we encourage one another, and then we get up like we're about
yeah,
to do now, and we
yeah.
travel. We continue to travel down the road. So thank you for traveling with me, Heidi. Yeah.
Well, and thank you for allowing me to. And
Yeah.
I think that's just so descriptive of life, isn't it? Like,
Mhm.
and it
Mhm.
goes back to that invitation, not structure piece.
Yeah,
Yeah, when we live with invitation, then it doesn't have to look a certain way. And I love what Margaret said earlier about like each one of us approaches this very
that's
differently
right.
because
That's
we are
right.
different. And so there is no right or wrong way of doing this. And uh, even it just struck me like if people are listening in the chat and they're like, we actually, I want to do this, but that I don't have money to buy the book. I don't want to do the book. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the book is just a tool
That's
along
right.
this journey, right? And so it really is that invitation to reflection and just to, as you were talking about, I don't even know if I'm angry. The thought came to me of like learning to listen to our own voice. And I'm sure that it's not a singular problem. I do know that our society definitely does not teach women to listen to their voice well.
Yeah.
And so, and I think perhaps with men as well, because the emotional stuff often gets shut down by virtue of how, as a society, we raise our boys. And so, I think just that, like learning to listen to what is going on inside. And again, just with that awareness that anything that is there is just communicating something. And if
That's
I
right.
can listen to it, now I can figure out where this journey is taking me. So,
That's great. I love that you encourage people to start and you don't have to have the book. It's a tool.
yeah.
And if someone is interested, where should I start? I think the whenever pages,
Love that. One of our
um,
pages.
the pages, it's a good place. And also like affirmations,
Mhm.
which I wasn't really a convincer of. And now it's like been kind of a transformative thing. And yeah, just like paying attention to yourself. Also the artist dates. That's been
Mm,
transformative. So just you can do that. You don't need to have the book.
yeah,
I think those two, the pages and the artist dates are the two main pillars of the program. And both of
yeah,
them are having you spend time with yourself, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And so, yeah, that's a place for someone to start if they're waiting for a library book,
yeah,
or if
yeah,
waiting for something to come in and they want to start. Like those
Yeah.
are good places to start. So, and then also hanging out with us. So,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and getting on the road with us as well. We'd love to
Yeah.
know and to be able to support. And, I think that what community looks like around this, Heidi, can change and morph,
Yeah.
especially if we know people who are doing it. So, for those who are doing it, I don't even know. I don't know all the tools on Substack. Like, I don't know if I know that there's like a chat thing where
Yeah.
people can have more of a specific line of conversation. Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. This
Okay.
is the subscriber chat. So yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know how that works, but I think we can figure something out if people would
Yeah.
love to, that are doing it and would love to have more conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
So,
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I just, as you were talking about the artist date, I was like, because earlier today I was like, I didn't really do an artist date. And as you said that, I'm like, I actually did, but it looked a little different. And I
Yeah.
actually have a picture of it, so I may
Oh,
have to
yes.
post it on my Substack
Yes.
later. But we have this beautiful space just outside of our bedroom that is like it's a little deck area, and it's
Mhm.
been there for over 10 years. And I never used it. And then my husband's aunt passed away and left us a little
Mhm.
bit of an inheritance. And it wasn't enough to make a big difference in terms of our household finances, like to pay down,
Right.
the mortgage or whatever.
Right.
But it was enough to do something with. And we've often tried to, like, if we get something like that that is connected to a person, to do something that reminds us of that person. And so
Yeah.
he actually came up with, how we have that little deck area and you keep saying that you'd love to cover it? What if we found a company that did some sort of enclosure for us? And so we found this company locally that built, they call it a 3-season room. So it's like plexiglass windows, it's got screen,
Yeah.
but we have a lot of rain here. And so now it doesn't rain on me when I sit out there. And we also get blazing hot sun in the summer on that side of the house. And so you could never sit out there in the summer when it wasn't raining. And so now it's this beautiful covered area that is just lovely to sit in. And so the other day, I did not have a ton of time, but I had about an hour. And so I took my artist's way and I took my journal and I poured myself a glass of wine and I took my dog out and let him run around the yard. And I just sat and like took in the trees and took in the fresh air and listened to the birds and just like sat there. And it was like, well, if I feel like writing, I will. And if I don't, I won't. And I did a little bit of writing, but I just did a lot of sitting. And it was really beautiful. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere different, but it
Right.
was just really peaceful and
I
beautiful.
love
And it
that.
felt like what I needed. And so, yeah, just, again, allowing ourselves to have the creativity to let the whenever pages be what they need to be and let the artist date be a way of stepping out of the intense rhythm of our everyday in
I
some
love that.
way.
I love
So.
that. I love that. I definitely want to see a picture.
I
I
will
want to
post it. I'll
I want to
post
be
it
able
after
to,
this. Yeah.
yes, picture you in that space when I think about you. I love that. And I love the
Mhm.
fact that, yeah, we don't have to, it doesn't, I think sometimes things have to be so extravagant and
They don't.
they don't have to be extravagant. It's just being present.
Exactly.
It's like, come be
Yeah,
present with yourself. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen
Yeah.
and see what you really need. Do I
Yeah.
really need to write or do I just really need to sit and sip this wine and let my thoughts wander,
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's so great. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, this has been amazing as always.
Yeah.
And I think of you often and think, when I'm in your area, I'm
Oh,
going to come
yeah.
visit you in
Oh,
person.
no,
I can
for
hardly
sure.
wait.
We are claiming that, and
Ah,
vice versa. We are claiming that. That would be awesome.
oh my goodness,
Um,
it would be. Yeah.
yeah, we do. So
So
this is good.
yeah,
Yeah,
and we will connect for when
yeah,
our next one is. I suspect,
absolutely.
after chatting with Margaret earlier and looking at my calendar, I'm shooting for, like, if it works for you, June 26th-ish, somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
That'll give us a couple of weeks. And
yeah,
for everyone in the chat, we just yeah, stay connected to us on Substack, and
yeah,
we will definitely make note of when the next one is. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wonderful.
yes, yes. All right.
All
Have a
right.
great, great, beautiful rest of your day and weekends
Yes.
because it's
Yes.
Friday. So I get to go
Yes.
to a graduation of a dear friend's son. He's like a son to me. So I'm super excited
Oh,
about that. He's
beautiful.
graduating high school.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so
Oh,
that's my thing I'm
lovely.
looking forward to doing is celebrating him. So yeah.
Well, I get to tomorrow I'm doing another live with actually two of the very first people that I connected with on Substack.
Oh wow.
One is one who I just kept reading her writing because I'm like, we are like spinning in the same circle here.
Yeah.
And then the other was one of my very first non-friend followers and just a beautiful person who just has been very encouraging. And so we are meeting online tomorrow to talk about real connections in the virtual world. So,
I love that.
so
I
I'm
love
actually
that.
really excited about that. And then I get to spend a little time this coming week because I have a week off and all of my kids are available. So we have probably about 5 days where my partner and all of our kids and one of the plus ones uh, just get to spend some intentional time together. So
Oh, that's great.
this
Great.
is a
That's
lovely
great.
weekend. Yeah.
That's really great. That's great. I love
Yeah.
that. So, well, I will tune into those lives, hopefully if I can, but if not, I will definitely
Watch
listen
the
to the
replay.
replay because
Yeah.
that's part of the power. But I'm really interested, especially in the one about the virtual relationships and real
Yeah.
connection. So I'm
Yeah.
interested in that one. So take care. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us.
Thank you, everyone. And thanks for
Yes,
all the wonderful comments as well.
yes, yes,
All
yes.
right.
All
Take
right.